having its morning drink. That's the one closest to us. And we didn't want to miss out on that initial action with the tiny little cub playing with its mum. But my name's Scott, and it's great to have you on board with us. We're in the Sabi Sands in South Africa, and it's a crisp winter's morning, about 12 degrees Celsius, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm teamed up with Andrew on camera today, and take a closer look at the hyena because the cub has just come out. Apologies, 54 degrees Fahrenheit. We use Celsius here in South Africa, so I haven't quite got to grips with the conversions yet. Look at this. The mother looked like it was about to possibly pick up her little cub there delicately in her jaws. Oh, look at this. She may pick it up. It's incredible to see how gentle they can be. Those are some of the most powerful jaws out here in the African bush for crushing bones, but thankfully in this case it's displaying its tenderly motherly love. Cute. Now, this is a live safari, and if any of you are joining for the first time, it's great to have you with us. If any of you would like to send through your thoughts or questions, feel free to do so. And it's really easy. You can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Let us know if it is your first time viewing and where you're from. There's people around the world all joining in on this safari. And it's not just myself out this morning. Brent is out with Bryan, and they have headed towards the Nkahuma Pride with their buffalo kill that they made last night. There's some incredible footage, and we managed to actually, for the first time ever, film the Nkahuma Pride catching their prey, and it was the ultimate prey takedown. One of their hardest quarries to kill, the Cape buffalo. So look forward to an update on what's been going on around the kill for those of you who were on the Sunset Safari last night. It's going to be interesting to see how much of that buffalo they have consumed. Well, isn't this wonderful? A lot of you may be wondering how come the hyena are so relaxed with our presence, and it's taken many, many years of constant good guiding practice, reassuring the animals that we form no threat to them, and we merely want to be spectators into their lives. And the current behavior you see is testament to the good guiding practice and habituation over many, many years, reassuring, like I say, these animals that we don't want to feed them. All we want to do is look at them. We don't want to harm them either. So it really allows for some really great viewing. Tricky thing with hyena though is they've got such complex hierarchical systems, and they're also quite difficult to distinguish between one another. So it's difficult to tell exactly what's going on and who's who. Let's take one last quick little look at the little cub before we send you across to the lion and their kill. And not to worry, Andrew and myself will not be going anywhere. And I'm sure after you've had a quick update from Brent on what's going on there, we'll call you back for a bit more hyena den action. Over to Brent. We'll see you later.
Good morning and welcome on this live safari. Welcome to the aftermath of what was an incredible experience that we all got to have last night on the Sunset Safari with the Nkahuma Pride hunting buffalo. So those of you who might be new, we are live. So we're sitting next to lions eating a buffalo live. We also are interactive, so you can ask us questions, and you can do that by sending us an email, and the email address is questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. But what an incredibly epic sunset safari we had with hungry Nkuhumas, and they managed to bring down a buffalo mere meters from us. And at the moment, only one lioness is feeding, and we will show you the rest of the comatose lions shortly. And they have made quite good headway on this buffalo. So, for those of you who might be new or might have missed the last few days, we've been spending a lot of time with the Nkuhuma Pride, at least 5 or 6 drives, and we've seen them fail to catch buffalo a few times, and then finally our patience in waiting with them paid off as they caught this old buffalo bull very, very close to us. And we were lucky enough to see the whole hunt last night, which was absolutely incredible and not something we get to see too often. So what an amazing, amazing evening. And now we have some very fat lions and a very skinny buffalo. So if you look behind that lioness that's feeding, you just see these bellies. So for those of you who might have missed it last night, we're going to play a little quick clip of what happened last night. So here we go. We're going to play you that clip of what happened last night. So, as you see that, they ran after that buffalo. They actually chased the buffalo towards where the other buffalo, and it's amazing how they leap onto the animals' backs. And then, amazing how Junior, who was miles behind, probably 500 meters behind, just stormed in and added his weight, actually was quite instrumental in bringing down of that buffalo. And you could see when he pulled it by the leg that it really, really made a difference. And you can see while the one lioness focused on the neck and on the nose, the others trying to bring it down with weight, jumping on its back, pulling on its back legs, and eventually they were able to bring it down. And now the lions have a nice stable meal for a few days at least. Wasn't that absolutely fantastic? And we just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and a bit of patience that paid off. And as you can see, the innards of this buffalo have been eaten, and I know you guys from Scott's angle would have seen Junior opening up the stomach, and that is the easiest point of access for lions. So they will open that up, and Junior, being the male and the biggest at the moment, would have got in there and got to the liver, the lungs, the heart, the sort of high nutrient, high mineral value pieces, and he would have eaten those first, and that's why he would have gone for that soft underbelly of the buffalo ahead of the females. It's amazing how fast a lion's digestive system is. So they are able to digest what they eat very quickly, and this enables them to continue feeding in bouts, even after a few hours when they've got incredibly, incredibly full bellies. Now you can hear that. And that is not actually bone, that's her using her premolars to cut through that thick buffalo hide, enabling her to get to more of the meat.
The other lionesses have all changed their zebra. I can see them now finally. There's a herd of zebra. The one lioness is probably 25, 30 meters from the herd of zebra. I'm not going to move while I've got lions near me because the zebra is looking in our general direction at the moment. So I don't want to be the one to give it away. But once these lions go down, I'll move slightly.
So we're going to reposition, see if we can get a different angle on what's going on here with the Nkahuma Pride. And in the meantime, we're going to cross back to Scotty, who's with that incredibly cute little hyena den, who's making another appearance, hyena pup that's making another appearance.
Well, from the bone-crunching jaws of the lion to the branch-crunching jaws of these young little hyena, look at them attacking this little twig. And I'm sure they would also like to be chewing on that buffalo carcass, but sadly for them they are not in a fortunate position like the Nkahuma Pride, but they are making do with their surroundings. I can just see the little cub has poked its head out. It's popping in and out of the burrow. It seems very playful this morning. And earlier on it was practicing its mountaineering, trying to climb up the steep banks that surround the burrow. What will its next move be? This hyena clan is a very interesting and awesome place for us to try and get to grips with the complex hierarchy of these animals. We still haven't quite pinpointed exactly who's who and what's what. But what I can tell you, and I'm hoping we're going to see it again while you're with us now, is there appears to be a sub-adult male who keeps circling kind of the perimeter of this den site, and the three slightly older cubs are always the ones to run up and chase it away. It's probably 2 or 3 times their size, but doesn't try and compete with them, even though it could very easily overpower them. It respects them for their hierarchical position. So it could be that, like I said, it's a young male, and that these youngsters that we are looking at now, the 2 on the left, are possibly females, and therefore ranked higher than him within the clan. You can see the little cub gets a little bit nervous when the others start to approach, but they do share that burrow. We've seen all of the cubs entering and exiting that burrow, and there are also a network of other holes that are all seem to be interconnected. Here goes the mountaineering. Dr. Debbie, haven't heard your name before, so good to have you on board with us. Dr. Debbie's asked a great question. They would like to know, how far away are we here from the Nkahuma Pride with their kill? And I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, why aren't these hyena lingering around there trying to steal some scraps? We are probably about 1.5 miles to 2 miles away as the crow flies, and the hyena here could certainly have been able to hear that buffalo letting out its death bellows last night. And there's a strong chance they may have headed there, had a quick look at what happened, and as soon as they saw that pride of lion with the amounts of meat that's left, and bless me, excuse me, and realized that it's not going to be worth trying to chase these lion off their kill, and may return there a little bit later on. I could be wrong, and maybe they didn't head there, but even if they did, it's important to understand that even though in some areas of Africa hyena may very well chase lion off their kills, in the Sabi Sands that's very, very rare, and the hyena have almost specialized in either hunting for themselves or stealing from leopard, which is a far easier and less risky predator to steal kills from. Lion are understandably far bigger than hyena and also live in pride, so they are not solitary like the leopard. So I've very seldomly seen hyena overpowering lion on kills in the Sabi Sands. It's not to say that it hasn't happened and it doesn't happen, but it isn't very common, Dr. Debbie. And I believe Kathy and Terry were inquiring as to the likelihood of this clan of hyena overpowering the Inkahuma pride. So, thanks to Dr. Debbie's question, we covered all of those bases, including your questions. And it's wonderful to get your questions then through. We get an idea of what you're interested in. So keep sending them. And apologies if we don't answer them immediately. There are a lot of people sending questions through. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, why on earth is this little club pitch black, yet the rest of the clan have got these spotted coats, and they are born this charcoal black, and from about 3 months of age, that little cub will begin to look more spotted hyena-like, and its coat will lighten and the spots will begin to show. This is the oldest of all 4 of the cubs now, and it, like the youngest cub, is an only child. Now, what this means is that it could have potentially killed one of its siblings, and it is harsh, but it's the way that future queens will anchor their position in the clan, and if there are 2 females born into the same litter, there's a strong chance that they will try and outcompete one another from birth, and therefore before we even get to see them, they may well have killed one of their siblings within the burrow, either by physically attacking it or simply by outcompeting it at nursing. Now, on this little cub that we're having a look at, it's also an only sibling, and you may notice a little scar on its right shoulder there. It was a brief glimpse, but keep looking, and what this could mean is that that may be a scar from a battle that it may have had with its sister. If it's a male and a female born into the same litter, it's less likely for siblicide to occur because the female will already instinctively know that that male will not pose a threat to her hierarchical position, and therefore she may tolerate him. So, again, just trying to explain the complexities of a hyena clan. And isn't it interesting how the females are the most dominant and the males lesser, and often lesser in size? Which is the roles reverse in nature. Typically, especially with mammals, the men are the biggest and most dominant. Well, it would be very interesting to know how this mother attained all these notches and nicks in her ears. They do live a highly confrontational life, putting themselves into dangerous scenarios on a daily basis. And it's an animal that I truly would love to be able to follow for weeks on end and day in, day out for every hour of the day, because I'm sure we would be exposed to some really interesting behavior in terms of not only what they're capable of in terms of covering huge distances, searching for food, chasing off prey, but also be alerted to how strong their sense of smell is and their hearing, and how far they'll start to trot off in one direction knowing that there's meat that lies up ahead. What makes it difficult is that they do move very quickly, and even though you can see she's very relaxed with us, unlike lion and leopard, who are a little bit easier to follow through the bush because they don't move quite as quickly as hyena, these guys would leave us in a trail of dust behind them, so we don't spend as much time as we would like to following them. But that's simply because it would be very, very difficult to. And unless we have a den site located, which we thankfully do at the moment, we don't really see them too often. So this is the golden opportunity that us at Juma are very happy to be sharing with you. They don't stay at this den site permanently, and they will move from here to mainly one other that we know of. It's not far away, probably half a mile away. And after spending a few weeks here, and it gets full with parasites and ticks, and also excrements, they may move to their other den and then allow Mother Nature to take care of this one, clean it out, and then a few weeks later they could come back. So they seem to be ping-ponging between two den sites, but it's not uncommon for hyena to have even more that they can move between in their territory. Dory's interested into the chats about siblicide and how many cubs have been born, what do we actually know. Now, it's tricky, like I say, because they will be actually often given birth to at a separate den from the clan's usual den, so there's a strong chance that female would have given birth elsewhere, and then after a week or two carried this little cub in her jaws back to the main clan den sites. During that first week or two, whether there were 2 or 3 cubs or possibly even 4 at a maximum born, it's very hard to say. The birthing canal of the female hyena is very narrow, and there can often actually be complications where there will be stillborns and actually cause death to female hyena, but that's more often in their first birth. It's hard to tell again whether this female has given birth to this cub for her first time or if she's given birth to cubs in the past. But we can only assume that possibly due to the fact that there is a scar on the shoulder of that little cub, that there could well have been a little tussle down in the burrow between 2 tiny cubs. Incredible to believe that from birth these animals will instinctively know what to do and know that there's competition, but that is how we as humans may often differ to a lot of the wild animals. We rely on being taught a lot of things, whereas animals are born with a lot of instinctive traits that will guide them in the right direction through life. Now you can see this little cub suckling. It's probably around 8 or 9 months old at a guess. Very difficult for me to age, but that's what we kind of think as a rough age, and it will continue to nurse for up to 12 to 14 months. Now Chrissy's interested to know, will the mother hyena also bring back, and other clan members bring back meat and regurgitate it at the den to supplement these cubs' diets? And Chrissy, no, it's unlike hyena to regurgitate meat at the den site as wild dog would do, but they occasionally do carry back scraps, bones, and little remains of carcasses that they may have scavenged or caught for themselves. But it's not something we see very often, and we don't see many remnants around the den, although there are a few bones littered around this area. Hyena cub will rely on mainly milk for up to their first year of life, even though from at probably the youngest 6 months of age they may be taken out with the clan on their adventures searching for meals. And this oldest cub that we can see suckling here was actually seen about a mile away from this den site at a kill that Tingana, a male leopard, had made. Brent was in that sighting and was very surprised to see this young cub there, but again, the textbooks can only provide us with so much information, and then the animals continue to surprise us by doing these kind of strange and unexplainable behavior for us to know why would it expose the cubs to those risks. But I guess at some point in time they need to realize and start learning the risks involved in being a hyena, and also how exactly to chase leopard off their kills. Okay, well, we are going to actually move off from the hyena den. Things seem to have cooled off here. We were here for the best action so far this morning, and we're going to go and look and see what else we can find, possibly some leopards, some other spotted animals. But in the meantime, shoot across to Brent's and see what those lions are up to.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we're still at the Nkuhumas. There's a very, very, very fat junior lying off in the distance. And we've got a little bit of behavior going on here in front of us. And you can see this female who is next to the carcass is busy trying to cover up some of the stomach content and blood. And you will see lion and leopard quite often do this. Even though on a kill this size it is probably not as important on the smaller thing. They're trying to sort of hide the smell from hyenas or other lions even. As you can see, very, very happy lions at the moment. Here, we sort of have to move forward a little bit. They've all disappeared behind us. Oh, you can see there's a very dirty little sub-adult. Decided to take a gap, even though that belly is grotesquely large. So we just move forward a little bit. Unfortunately, I think the best option is for us to go around the other side to see some of that. Hello, girls. Aren't you looking very chuffed with yourselves this morning? So I know Scotty's been with the hyenas this morning, and I'm sure you've been having an absolutely wonderful view there of that little guy. Dylan from I was wondering, would the Nkuhumas ever come into contact with that hyena kind? Most definitely, I'm sure they have a few times over the time they've been operating in this area. And from what I could see from the tracks as I drove up towards these lions this morning, is that the hyenas are quite well aware, and it's not as the crow flies that far to where the hyena den is. It's probably 2.5 kilometers or so, and they would have definitely heard the death bellows of this buffalo yesterday. Hello, Junior. Don't get up. Please don't. And here we go. Try to sneak in the side here. How's that, Brian? Sorry?
A little bit further forward.
A little bit further forward. So, sorry, Dylan, back to your question. I was saying, and it looked like the hyenas actually came probably about 50, 60 meters from here and had a good look. Good look at where the lions were. And probably decided that fresh after that kill, the lions were still very hungry and quite aggressive. So from what I could see, it was only 1 or 2 hyenas that came to have a look. But possibly over the next few days, they might, a few more might come, and they might attempt to push the lions. And depending on how full the lions are and how much they want to defend this carcass from the hyenas might be able to rob it. Sorry, stations. There is space for 2. I'm the only station in this position. Here we can see that subadult lioness using those teeth to cut through the thick skin. Okay, guys, we're going to cross back to Scott quickly, who's got some action at the hyena den, and we'll be back with you a little later.
Now, as you can see, we have not left the hyena den. Well, we did actually. We've returned because as we left, we've seen another adult hyena approaching. It looks like the mother of the 2 smaller cubs. She's coming across to our right quite slowly. There's a lot of bush, but it's going to be very interesting to see the behavior of the rest of the clan when she arrives. She's approaching very slowly and cautiously, and when she does arrive, we can expect to see some greetings, a lot of vocalizations, and here she comes. I've just heard an elephant trumpet nearby. You may have possibly picked that audio up. And it's going to be absolutely wonderful to see the 2 younger cubs responding to their mother when she arrives, and also the rest of the clan. I'm just going to try and roll back a bit. Oh, no, that's not working. And there's also other hyena to the right, a younger one, that you may just see moving into the right-hand side of your screen shortly. It looks like there they are. And again, like I said earlier, they are such complex animals in terms of their hierarchy. It's hard to say exactly what's going on, but I'm just going to try and reverse a little bit, and that way free us up a wider field of view to see exactly what's going on, and also to allow this hyena to see what's going on at the den. Now that she can see, she's appears to be approaching directly, and her stomach's extremely full-bellied. We're not sure if she's pregnant with another litter, but here goes. Let's see what happens. Isn't this awesome? Watch closely. Now, tails up is a sign of strength and dominance. They all have their tails up at the moment. But clearly, the hyena that has just arrived is not taking any chances with those 2 females that have just approached her. And it looks like the female was chasing off a young male there, the one who got chased off by the initial 2 females, then took off her aggression on the young male, an easy target for a female hyena. Now, apologies for the radio antenna and blue cord you can see on the screen, but we're trying to show you as much as possible, and it is a live safari, so we can't predict what the animals are going to do, and would rather show you exactly what we can see, even if there are a few strange obstructions in the foreground. Now, ideally they would have done all of this in front of us, but as you can see, they've all disappeared into thick bush. Rather than crashing after them, I think it's going to be best for us to wait here, because I'm guessing they're all going to return once they've had their greetings and resolved their little debate that they seem to be having. Oh, little cub tripped over a branch there. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition the vehicle so that we are facing back in the direction that those hyenas have headed in, and that way when we return we'll have a better view of them. A few days ago we got to see some incredible behavior between the different clan members, and there was actually a little bit of, it was fighting, but nothing too serious. They're all family, I guess. But some really interesting behavior between the different clan members, trying to establish dominance and also just make sure, I guess, their little cubs are safe. I hope they haven't disappeared for good, but like I say, their movements are difficult to predict, and also the reasons for their movements and behavior are very difficult for us to read into. We would have to know a lot more about them and follow them more intricately to know exactly who's who. I did see one hyena off in the distance, still moving in front of us, and it looks like they are slowly beginning to return to the den. This is the one with extremely full belly. Again, not sure if she's full of meat or full of babies. It would be unlikely that she's pregnant already, although nature can surprise us if she is in fact the mother of the two medium-sized cubs. She technically should not already be pregnant. They are not quite old enough for her to be giving birth to the next litter, but looking at that stomach of hers, it certainly appears that it's full of something, either meat or babies. And also interesting now that she seems to be returning, but there's no sign of the other two mothers. Now, speaking of aggression and interesting behavior with hyena, you would have noticed the lions fighting quite aggressively with one another over the kill. Hyena will also fight aggressively with other clan members when there is food on the table, so that isn't uncommon for them. What's she gonna do next here? But like the lions, once the dinner is finished, they will often groom one another and lick one another and reaffirm bonds. Now it's going to be interesting to see if she vocalizes here to call out this little cub to greet it, even though it's not her own. Well, I hope everything's okay over there. I heard an elephant trumpeting in a vehicle driving quite hastily. Let me just double check on the radio. Station on Philemon's Dip with the Glove. Is everything okay there? Okay, copy, thanks, Tex. There's another hyena coming in. It's coming in at high speed. And it sounds like it's vocalizing. This is going to be awesome. At the Mnisikaya, it's active. Okay, copy, thanks. Watch closely here. This hyena looks very excited. Don't worry, Texan's okay. It's just a young elephant bull giving him a bit of a run around. Now, like I said, I can't explain this behavior, and I'm not actually sure if that hyena was here earlier. I don't think it was. I think that is a fourth adult and also looks like it could be a female that seems to have just run in. You could see it was very excited, it was vocalizing, and I think it may well have followed the sense of the other hyena running off. We must remember their senses are so much better than ours, and they may know a lot more of what's going on than what we would assume. Oh, here comes the elephant. Wow, isn't this something? I don't know who's more excited, the elephant or the hyena. Or if Texan's got a pocket of oranges on his vehicle that this elephant's after. I'm only kidding, that wouldn't be the case. Now, if this elephant does charge us, there's a strong likelihood that I may charge it back in the vehicle, just to try and show it that we are not scared of it, and to try and kind of put it in its place. But we don't want to get in its way. It may simply be displaced aggression that it may take out on us because it doesn't like hyena. You can see how it's holding its head up very high, making itself look big, and it probably will keep its tail horizontal. It'll push it up, holding it away from its body, indicating that it's not happy. So it's a very good behavioral indicator. Even though it's very thick, try and keep an eye on that tail. It tells us a lot about the elephant's mood. Okay, now, there is a lot going on here, so it doesn't make it easy for Andrew. I'm just going to try and swivel the vehicle around because this is the hyena that's just arrived at the scene. I don't think it's been here earlier this morning. And it's coming to say hello to the little cub. The elephant's still just off behind us here. But everything seems okay for now with that. But let's take a closer look here, Andrew. There's more hyena moving around from the rear side of the den where we are not situated at the moment, so let's watch closely. It's hard to know where to look at the moment, but we could witness some more very interesting hyena clan behavior here. And you'll notice how they hold their tails up high there again. It's a dominance display. Even though it's through thick bush, they appear to be greeting one another. They do a lot of sniffing of the genitalia, very similar to dogs, to try and process smells and understand a little bit better about what that individual's feeling and doing. So it's a lot of tactile communication. And they are now rubbing heads up against one another. Like I say, it's very thick and we're not going to reposition the vehicle every 2 minutes. And rather just try and be stationary here and allow nature to play out without us interfering. The elephant thankfully has moved off, so we are no longer in risk of getting caught in the crossfire. You may have heard me mention displaced aggression. The elephant's going to be in a heightened mood, an anxious mood because of these hyena and possibly other predator around that it doesn't like, and it could therefore take that aggression out on us. So there's something we have to be cautious of. I know Brent with a lion sighting the other day, I think it was 2 days ago at Arathusa. He kept his distance as a herd of elephants stumbled upon the Nkuhuma pride, the same pride that you are with Brent this morning. And rather than getting caught in the crossfire, it's sometimes better to hang back. Now those two hyena have headed off into the thickets, tails held high. And these little cubs are very wisely seeking refuge around their burrows. I guess they know that when the adults are getting excited and establishing who's who and what's what, it's best for the cubs to seek shelter of the den, so again, they don't get caught in the crossfire. It would be wonderful to know where the rest of these hyena have gone. There have been a whole different number of hyena, different sizes, different mothers coming and going, and where they've gone and what they're doing and why they've all left now, it's hard to say. But I can see two more arriving from our right-hand side. Again, their tails are held very high. They're keeping their heads to the ground, sniffing intently. Well, while things calm down here, and we try and wait and see what happens, how incredible is that clip that you all saw of the Nkuhuma pride successfully taking down that big male Cape buffalo yesterday?
The other lionesses have all changed
We need to commend Brent for being in the right place at the right time, as well as Andrew for filming that high-paced action. And I'd be lucky to be looking at the highlights, and a lot of you were lucky enough to watch that live. Really incredible stuff, and we have been talking about it a lot over the last week or so, that the time is coming for us to capture a live kill, and finally it happened. And not only did it happen, but it happened in perfect scenario. There was golden afternoon sunlight, an open area where we could actually see everything unfolding. So I hope you enjoyed that clip. I certainly loved watching the highlights when I got back to camp last night, and even enjoyed the last few glimpses when VM and I raced to the scene. We were actually sitting at Treehouse Dam listening for any alarm calls or any audio, and I knew the lion was stalking something, but we weren't sure what. But then we heard that buffalo bellowing, and we started the car and raced over there to also get a slice of the action. Now, speaking of action, there appears to be no more here. I cannot see any hyena, not even the youngsters around the den. The adults appear to have moved off. But again, really interesting, and the more time we spend here, the more we may try and understand what exactly is going on with the clan and their hierarchy. I have pulled my earpiece out, so sadly I've been out of touch with the outside world, but I'm back in action now, and I think it may be a good opportunity to send you back to the Nkuhuma pride, as now I think it's safe for Andrew and myself to move away from here. Things seem to have diffused, so over to Brent, and we're going to go and look for something else.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, some of the lions have moved to the top of the termite mound and looking very chuffed with themselves. We had a brief visual, but quite a long way away, and we can't actually see it anymore, of a hyena who was investigating, and the lions actually moved up onto that termite mound to watch that hyena. So the hyenas definitely are aware that this carcass is here, but it was a single hyena, and definitely not worth that hyena taking the chance of challenging this many lions. The one lioness actually moved up into the bush, and the hyena, we could just see it way in the distance as it moved past us. So maybe, who knows, they might wait a little bit, call some friends, and who knows what might happen. Probably not during the day today, but maybe this evening. Definitely worth coming to have a look at what happens tonight. So now, move around a little bit so we can have a look. I just keep seeing these lines look off into the distance there. I'm wondering if that... Oh, there's a Stenbok. That's what they've spotted now. Just run out onto the road. But that's also the same area where the hyena disappeared, but a bit further away. Hello, little Stenbok. Their line's just over here. It's unlikely that the lions would make an attempt at the little Stenbok, especially when they've still got so much meat here on this buffalo carcass. It'd be interesting to see, because the hyena is definitely aware that the lions have this kill here, whether they do come back. Hello, Mr. Junior. Now that is a seriously flat belly. And Dory is just noting on Junior's fat belly that it's so nice to see fat, flat cats. I agree with you. They were looking quite hungry yesterday. Go ahead, Andrew. Myself and Aubrey, no one else expressing interest. You're welcome to make your way. So this young sub-adult is still getting involved in the feeding. And we've got another thing is looking at feeding is from Deb in Ohio about how many pounds can a lion consume in a single sitting. Well, pounds is not really my strong point, but in kilograms it's about between 15 and 20 kilograms depending on the size of the lion. Male lions can eat, as far as I know, possibly even up to 30 kilograms in a single sitting. But normally with a lioness like this would probably be 15 to 20 kilograms in a single sitting. But they have incredibly fast digestive systems. And what the reason for this is it enables them, disappearing inside the buffalo. And what this does is it enables them to gorge, and then their body processes that protein very quickly, and they defecate it out, and they're able to feed again in no time. You can see how dirty the forelegs are of that young sub-adult there. And that's from him climbing inside the carcass, I'm sure, being a little bit smaller than the others, and can get a bit deeper inside that carcass. So, as we saw a little bit in the beginning yesterday, that the lions were quite aggressive with each other around the kill. And being a big kill like a buffalo, they weren't as aggressive as they would be around a small kill like an impala. But Kevin on Twitter has asked, can we see any noticeable flesh wounds on the faces or on the bodies of the lions from that fighting over food? I can't actually at the moment, but I haven't had a good look at all the animals. but it is quite a, on a bigger carcass like this, there is a little bit less of that fighting. Obviously, if the pride was bigger, there would be a little bit more fighting. So, and generally, you'll find the really, really intense fighting is over something small like an impala. And your head disappearing inside the chest cavity there. So it was such an amazing sighting of those buffalo, of that buffalo being taken down, and being able to witness it from start to finish. And there were two females in particular who seemed to be leading that hunt. And Sandy in Texas would like to know if I managed to notice which female it was that was attached to the throat or made the initial jump onto the buffalo. I didn't, but I will actually have a good look later when I download my photographs, and that should be able to, we should be able to figure it out there. So from what I could see, the female who led the hunt yesterday looked a little bit more hungry than the others. They were all very hungry, but she just looked that little bit more hungry than the others. So her belly was slightly more concave. But there were two females that led the initial charge and jumped on, and also came around and grabbed the buffalo by the neck and by the nose. But all the lions did get involved in the end, even the sub-adults, although the sub-adults weren't the most useful, but obviously this is a really good learning experience for them while that was happening, to be able to be around and witness that. And they did make some attempts to jump onto the buffalo. So, but Junior definitely added his considerable weight to that, and definitely made a big difference and helped with the bringing down of that buffalo. Just going to try have a look here. I have a sneaky suspicion it was the amber-eyed lioness, that sort of orange-eyed lioness that was on the nose, but I will double check that. And quite often with lions and on the hunt, there are quite a lot of different theories about who leads the hunts generally in that. I think the hungriest lion generally leads the hunt, and all the lion takedowns that I've seen, there definitely is. There's been a lot of debate over the years whether lions display proper cooperative hunting techniques. I definitely think they do. I don't think they're as well thought out as some people think they do. I think a lot of it is a sort of instinctual response, but they definitely, especially with these bigger prey, practice a definite cooperative hunting strategy. And you can see the lions take visual cues from each other. And there's quite a lot of debate, and there's been some quite interesting papers written about whether possibly the movement of the black tip of the tail and the ears are things that lions would read to try figure out what's going on and take those visual cues from the other lioness. So I don't think there's any audio cues during the hunting, and I think we would see, even if we weren't able to hear them, we would see the movement, but I definitely think they do take signals from each other, from reading body language and possibly from the ears and from the and from the tail. Very happy kitties. So, speaking of old orange eyes, who I is definitely my favorite lioness in the Nkuma Pride. Ashley from Alabama would like to know, do I think she is the alpha or lioness in the Pride? I'm not 100% sure, Ashley. Probably not. I think she is one of the younger lionesses. So it's more than likely that the dominant female in the Pride will be one of the older lionesses. But maybe she's the next in line. But it'll be interesting to watch. With lion prides, with the females, it's a lot more difficult to figure out who is the dominant, because they are such a social animal, and they are very, with the social grooming and that, and they all sort of treat each other with a lot of love when they're not fighting over food. So it is more difficult to figure out which is the alpha in that situation, but we will definitely keep watching and try figure out who is possibly the alpha of the Pride. As we see, we've got quite a few sleepy cats around the vehicle. And Declan, who's a new viewer, as per this week. And what a week to start, Declan. You lucky fish. Declan would like to know why lions sleep so much. And there we can see a very sleepy lion. And Declan, it's the way they've evolved. They are unable to deal with heat very well. And so what this causes them, that they have bouts of intense movement. And then they will sleep. And on average, they'll sleep about 20 hours a day. A lot of that's to conserve energy. When they do hunt, like we saw last night as a successful hunt, they do utilize an incredible amount of energy. And that lioness who was hanging on the nose of the buffalo didn't start feeding for quite a while, even while the other lions were feeding. And that's because she was just waiting to sort of get her energy back and wait for the lactic acid to sort of dissipate in her body. And the main reason lions sleep so much is because of their difficulty in dealing with heat. And now, especially with these big fat bellies, the digestive process obviously also causes quite a lot of heat. So they're going to be sleeping a lot longer at the moment while they've got nice big bellies, and interspersed with bouts of feeding while they have a nice stable carcass to feed off. Well, on the topic of sleep and sleeping, Dory just was wondering whether I was even able to sleep last night, or was the excitement too much and I couldn't get to sleep. Well, what happened, Dory, is I was so excited after drive and chatting, and then once it sort of went down a little bit, I crashed. I passed out and went straight to sleep. So I got a very good night's sleep last night, and slept right through. So it was a really, really great night's sleep, and I slept like a lion. See, disappearing into the carcass again. So the amazing thing is that initially I thought they were actually stalking zebra. So we could see zebra very close to where the lionesses were. And Kay in Wisconsin was wondering, did the lions use the zebra to cause the chaos that enabled them to catch this buffalo? Kay, I don't think they would have thought that far ahead, and I think it happened to be that the zebra might have got out of the way and the buffalo were there. They might have been hunting the buffalo, but I don't think the lions would have utilized the zebra to cause a bit of chaos. I think that just was maybe an added bonus. There we can, if we come out wide again, we can see that female. She's trying to cover up the stomach contents again and the blood, and that's trying to stop the smell from spreading. And that is not only to try stop hyenas, although I'm sure every hyena within 5 kilometers of here knows about this buffalo at the moment because of the bellows that buffalo made while it was dying last night. It could also be to stop the smell from male lions that could be further away, whether it be the Matimbas or possibly the Birmingham boys who weren't that far away. And quite an interesting thing is that I've been wondering whether the Birmingham boys heard that last night and would they make their way here. So the Nkahumas were calling when we got up this morning, and before we left and while we were still prepping the vehicles, we could hear the whole pride roaring with great gusto. She wants to stretch and clean nails, but just too fat, too lazy. So I'm just going to lie here for a while, digest my buffalo steaks before I decide on anything too vigorous in the exercise front. Oof. You can almost see the sort of weight of the belly flopping them over. I mean, have a look back at the kill, and you can see there that the hips are actually showing of this buffalo, and the whole rump area has been eaten already. And Blair in Ontario said she's heard that this rump region is the best part or the tastiest. It is the second part they will go for if they have the choice. That, as I said, they go for some of the internal organs with their high nutrient and high mineral value. The next part they go for is that rump area, and there is a very specific reason for that. It is the most accessible area that's got the most meat on it. So you'll often find on carcasses that the rump area is eaten first, and you'll see that with leopards as well. Quite often they'll start on the rump, and that's the sort of the easiest access with most benefit. And in a lot of animals, including lions, but it's very apparent in cheetah that they will always start on that first because they can try get the most meat possible before they possibly lose the kill. So lions will do it as well in case there might be male lions who might come chase them off, or even a large clan of hyenas that might do it. So there's a reason that they start on that rump area. It is lots of meat, not too many bones, and easily accessible and easy to open up. Here you go, fat, sleepy kitties. You can see a bit more dusting and covering of the carcass again. Covering it with sort of the leaf litter and sticks and sand. Just trying to make sure that smell doesn't permeate too far. Oh, dust bathed out of the carcass. So when we got to that carcass initially, and from Scott's angle, you guys would have seen Junior start feeding around the sort of genitalia area. And the reason for that is it's the softest point to open up the carcass. And Sandy's was wondering why he would have gone to that area first. And he's opening up the carcass to try to get to those internal organs we were talking about. So that's the reason it's the easiest point of access to the rest of the organs. And also no big ribs and bones in that area. So that's the reason he would have gone for the genital areas first. So speaking about, we've been speaking quite a bit about scavengers and hyenas, and we've had a hyena come look around the edge of this carcass. Anna Marie from New Jersey is wondering, is it too soon for vultures to arrive? It is, Anna Marie. So last night this happened just after sunset, and the vultures would already been safely in their trees sleeping, and now it's still too early in the morning. They will wait till sort of when it gets a bit warmer. What's going on there? Sorry, Anne-Marie, I'll be with you in a second. Just saw a lioness doing something a bit strange. Oh no, she's just going to join the others on the termite mound. Sorry about that, Anna-Marie. So what happens is the vultures will wait until it's a bit warmer, because they're such big, heavy birds. They need thermals to be able to fly effectively, and thermals is currents of warm air rising off the ground, and they will catch these thermals and use them to ride up high, so they can get to a high vantage point where they're able to see. And so probably in about an hour and a half, they will start riding those thermals. It's possible the bateliers might find this a bit sooner. They get flying a little bit earlier in the morning than the vultures. Very happy kitties. Still quite a lot of meat left in that buffalo, if the other lioness doesn't drown it in sand. She's making quite a dust storm there as she's trying to cover up the stomach contents and blood. Just going to try and move the vehicle slightly so we can get a better view of that. Watch out there, Brian. How's that, Brian? Here we go. She's actually made a mound. And she's not finished adding to her mound yet. So trying to cover up stomach contents just to try to stop that smell. Alerting other predators that there's a buffalo kill here. But as I said, the hyenas already know. We saw one hyena wandering around the edge of the kill, obviously not ready to take the chance of challenging these lions yet. And there we go. Looks like it's taking a lot of effort. The sun's out now and it is getting a little bit warmer. They might move this carcass into a shady spot later in the day if it does get too hot out here. At the moment, I think it's still a bit too heavy for them, a single lioness, to drag. So speaking of feasting and internal organs that the lions do go for, Penny Pine is wondering whether they would eat the brains. In a lot of the smaller animals, they definitely would, but I think it would be quite difficult with that buffalo having a very thick skull and that hard casing for them to actually access the brain. They might be able to from underneath, but generally you quite often find that these buffalo skulls are intact. So from a retired buffalo to a very alive buffalo, maybe more than one, we're going to cross across to Scotty and see what he's been up to with a live buffalo.
Welcome back, everyone. And it is sad to see animals die like that buffalo yesterday, but it is nature. And here's a reassuring sight. There's still lots more buffalo around, and this is a massive, massive breeding herd. So unlike the scenario yesterday where the Inkahuma pride caught that male buffalo who was in kind of a bachelor's herd and not in a large breeding herd like this, there's all different shapes and sizes here, females with their young calves. So let Andrew take you on a closer look of them. There are hundreds, and they will continue to pass past us for the next probably 5 to 10 minutes. I'm guessing maybe 200 to 300 buffalo lie ahead of us. We are here on Arathusa, and not too close to a waterhole, but they could very well end up at the Arathusa waterhole if they continue moving in the south and westerly direction. And as you can see, they are just everywhere around us and will continue to stream by for the next, like I said, 5 to 10 minutes. The majority of the herd still needs to pass by, so we drove to the front of the herd, which Andrew has just showed you now. Let's take a closer look on this clear area as they cross the road, and that way we'll be able to get some clear views of them and also be able to show you how to distinguish between male and female. Now what you need to look out for is that where the horns meet on the top of the head, the females have got hair and lack the large keratin crown that the males have. I'm just going to wait for the right opportunity. That's a male there. You can see that big crown and bulge on his middle parting, whereas the females will lack that bulge, and they will often have a hairy center part you go. Andrew's found a great example of a female there. 2 or 3 lined up, and you can see how they lack that large bulge. But both do have horns, male and female. And these are the Cape buffalo, sometimes confused with water buffalo, which occur in India. Very different animals. These are quite cantankerous beasts that command a lot of respect out here by both us as humans and also the predators. The Nkuhuma Pride, yes, were successful yesterday and luckily without injury. But most attempts when they will try and hunt buffalo will result in a fail because they are extremely large, powerful animals, and they're also very caring and will turn around and often rally troops in order to chase lion off buffalo that they may bring down in this herd. So there's a lot of safety and security amongst the herd, and it really is incredible to witness. You could imagine now if lions were to startle these buffalo, most would run and there'd be a cloud of dust if the lion were lucky enough to bring one down. Once the herd has regrouped, they will come back in and very often chase lion off their prey. We don't get to see these breeding herds of buffalo too often, so really happy to be sharing this moment with you. I think as the season becomes more dry, we will hopefully be getting more visuals of these large breeding herds. It certainly seems to be the trend that we've been experiencing, but during the summer months we very, very seldom saw them, and it seems to be a slow increase as things become drier. And this is for a simple reason: the buffalo are becoming more pressured to seek out food and moving into areas where they may not ordinarily go in search of food to try and capitalize on unutilized resources. This is a young bull coming to investigate us. Now, as you can see, these buffalo all seem very relaxed at the moment. There doesn't seem to be any apparent threats around. However, we got a report from Jacques that he saw 4 buffalo bulls on the Djuma waterhole camera that came and drank and seemed very nervous and stressed and then quickly moved off, and was wondering if those buffalo bulls were part of the same bachelor party of the unfortunate one that was taken down yesterday by the Nkuhuma Pride. It's difficult to tell, Jacques. It certainly is possible. It was only about a mile away from the Djuma waterhole that the kill took place. But I'm not sure how many buffalo were in the herd that one got grabbed out of. But it certainly is possible, Jacques. Or possibly they just got wind of other predators in that area. Naturally, around waterholes, animals can be nervous. It'll be interesting to know, Jacques, if that happened at night time or during the day, because if it was at night, that may in itself have been the reason for the buffalo's nervousness. And I am told that it did happen last night at about 8 o'clock, so yes indeed, Jacques, I think possibly just the fact that it was dark would have caused those buffalo to behave very differently to how they would have had it have been daylight. Now, you may have noticed a lot of birds on the buffalo, the red-billed oxpeckers clambering around their bodies, searching for parasites. And there was one there. There will be possibly hundreds of oxpeckers trailing this herd and doing a great job in helping glean off ectoparasites. it looks like the last few members of the herd are beginning to cross the road, so we're going to have to reposition. And let's get that going now and try and loop ahead of them again. Now, there's quite a few bachelor bulls that trail these breeding herds in the hope that they'll get lucky. And often the bulls that we may see, the bachelor herds of bull that we may see at Juma, will join along and tag on for a few days or weeks when a herd passes by. So you could say they're almost semi-retired. And naturally, with all these bulls and opportunities to mate, there's competition between them, and occasionally you do get to see them fighting. And Shanae has asked a question about buffalo and their fighting. And have there ever been any recorded cases? Now, I'm not too sure if you mean here in the Sabi Sands, Shanae, or in general, but have there been any recorded cases of buffalo's horns becoming locked in a fight, similar to that of male kudus who've got corkscrew horns who, in some occasions, do become interlocked, therefore causing both of the opponents to die an unceremonious death? And yes, I actually have seen photographs, at least on one occasion, of two buffaloes who had died with their horns interlocked. So it certainly is possible, Shanae. But I think it's more common with kudu because of their corkscrew-shaped horns, which interlock a little bit easier than the buffalo's horns. Oh, I think we are in a fairly good spot here to await the herd. Well, you would have noticed a large variety in horn shapes of the various aged buffalo, and it's quite an interesting progression of growth. Initially, the young buffalo's horns will stick straight out of their head, but over time they will begin to loop lower down, like the adult buffalo that you can see, creating those large arches. And with age they do undergo a lot of changes, and Fiona is asking about a specific young bull that we may have seen earlier. I can't remember which one it was exactly, Fiona, but yes, they certainly will lower and drop kind of towards the ears as they do become older. Here's a good example here, Andrew, on the right, of a younger bull whose horns are still very upright, and he's kind of in the middle of all those buffalo, but it's hard to distinguish. There we go. And they will both widen and lower as he becomes older. This little youngster's horns have only just started to protrude. Well, it really is an overwhelming feeling being completely encompassed by this large herd of buffalo. It's a beautiful morning, not a breath of wind. The sun slowly beginning to poke out from the east above some clouds. And like I say, we don't get to spend time with these large herds very often, so this is really, really great stuff, and something that we don't get to share with you as often as we would like. Here comes the sunshine. Beautiful. You can hear the robotic calls of fork-tailed drongos. So it's not just the red-billed oxpeckers that you will see and hear following large herds of buffalo, but also the fork-tailed drongo. And the fork-tailed drongos have got a different agenda to the oxpeckers slightly. They're both interested in food, but the fork-tailed drongos will not feed directly off the buffalo as the oxpeckers will. They will rather wait for the buffalo to chase up insects. Oh, there, the oxpecker on the left was eating one. I think it's just trying to kill it. So it's holding it between its feet now. But it has successfully captured an insect which was flushed into the sky by the moving buffalo. Well, speaking of all the birds flying around here, we've got a wonderful question from Bree on Twitter. And Bree would like to know if the oxpeckers are territorial, and how far will they move in search of buffalo or other herbivores on which to feed. They will probably move huge distances in search of food, but they will probably have home bases where they head to. And thankfully, there's always going to be a number of various herbivores around. There may be times of plenty, like now when a large herd of buffalo moves through. But judging from their size and the fact that if there are not buffalo here, there will be other antelope and herbivores on which to feed off, that oxpeckers will not be required to move huge distances in search of food, unlike vultures, for example, who are designed to do that. So I don't think the oxpeckers will move big distances, especially in the breeding seasons when they'll have set cavities and trees in which they sleep. But wouldn't it be wonderful to know how far an oxpecker does move on a daily basis and how many different herbivores it feeds off? They can feed on up to 100 fully grown ticks a day as a rough estimate that studies have been done on. Now you can imagine how much good that is doing to not only the buffalo but all the other herbivores that these oxpeckers are flying to and feeding on, doing a great job in getting these blood-sucking parasites off them, and also having a great meal along the way that they are specialized in feeding on. It is basically the only thing they will feed on, barring open wounds that they sometimes do find on the animals, and that way they can almost just drink the blood and eat the scabs. Keeping them open and fresh, it's a toss-up as to whether they're doing a good job or a bad job, because like I say, they could be keeping the wound clean but allowing it to not allowing it to actually heal. Now there's about 5 fork-tailed drongos in view. The little blackbirds. And there's one that's just popped down to make a kill. Now, Brenda in Pennsylvania is interested to know what kind of damage do these buffalo cause to any of the camp surroundings. Do they push over fences? Are they a nuisance? These buffalo do only good for the environment, their hooves churning up soil and their droppings layering the earth with fertilizer. So having these large herds of buffalo moving through territories can be very useful for the soils and the nutrient cycle. And often their hooves will churn up the soil, allowing for new growth, almost like a plow. And they very seldom cause any trouble in and around camps. They don't push over fences, they don't cause trouble. Elephants, on the other hand, are the animal that cause most trouble for camps. They rip up water pipes and break into camps to get to fresh and untapped vegetation that often the camp will water and manicure so that the guests can enjoy beautiful surroundings. Elephants are very clever and can often find weaknesses in fences and water systems to get either fresh water or untapped resources, being manicured gardens within some of the camps. Not all of the camps will have fences around them, but a lot of camps will have elephant fences, which are basically two strands of electric fence that are quite high off the ground, which prevent elephant coming in, but allow just about every other animal other than giraffe to move through the camp. So it's just the elephants that camps are generally concerned about. And these buffalo actually are not even an issue to us on foot when they're in large herds. You may have heard us saying that buffalo can be very dangerous and an animal that you would not want to approach on foot. However, the large herds tend to be more accepting and forgiving of us on foot, and they actually often come up to us to investigate. It's the old bulls that we have to worry about, that are typically on their own in those small bachelor groups. Oh, there's a beautiful, beautiful dark sky out to the west, making for some dramatic scenery here on Arathusa this morning. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try and loop ahead of these buffalo once again, and then just have a moment of silence and allow you to listen to the bush, listen to all the noises we can hear. There's a lot of noise coming from them. Andrew's going to have to pan the camera away from these guests so that they don't get embarrassed for being on TV around the world. Hello everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, very good.
Is that a camp? Is that a TV?
It is, it is.
I want to be on TV.
Well, I was wrong. You may have heard that young boy saying, "Is that on TV?" And he shouted that he wants to be on TV. Shame. Okay. Well, we're just going to turn around here. What I'm going to do is again try and forecast their movements and then find a place to stop where we can just listen to the bush. I think this should do. So enjoy the moments of silence. Close your eyes, open your eyes, but enjoy the sounds that you're about to hear. Now, you may have heard a few different bird calls there. The short, sharp chirps that almost sound like a comb rubbing over a sharp corner are the oxpeckers, whereas the more robotic sounds are the fork-tailed drongos. So try and listen out for them. They're a little bit quiet at the moment, but they will peak and trough. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little moment of silence, and it's good just to let Mother Nature do the talking from time to time. We are gonna send you across from these feeding buffalo to another animal that is busy feeding on a buffalo. Enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone. And with most things, nothing stays secret in the bush for too long. These hyenas made its way back here. We're just trying to spot it. It's meandering around the edge of the carcass, or of the area. It can just make it through the trees. It's going to move through now. And one of the lionesses has spotted it and giving it sort of a 1,000-yard stare, trying to convince it not to come any closer. We did hear that sort of maniacal laugh a little bit earlier. You got it there, Brian? Mm-hmm. So let me just try to figure out a little bit to the left. A bit more, I think. I might miss it. He's gone a little bit. He's going further away. Let me try. I can't see it now. Both sides. So there is a hyena there, and the one lioness actually got up and moved off to the top of the termite mound over there, and to just give that hyena a sort of don't you dare come any closer look. And so what has happened since you guys have been gone? Two of the lionesses have started feeding again, and we are now trapped between lions because old young Junior decided to come lie literally right behind our car. So we can't actually move at the moment. And we've got these two ladies here. And the one is using that pile of sand and twigs and leaves that they use to cover the stomach contents. That's quite a convenient prop for that very fat belly. Just keep quiet and listen to the sound of them feeding for a little bit. I will wait for the other vehicle to stop. We'll wait for the vehicle to stop moving. Well, so the buffalo that Pride managed to catch last night is quite an old buffalo, and Dara in Ohio was wondering how old was this buffalo. I guess he's probably 10 or 12 years old, so buffalo generally only live to about 15 in the wild, so he was past his breeding prime, and he was with a group of about 15 or 20 other old bulls. I know on camera last night we could only see about 3 or 4 running, but there were quite a few more in the area as well. So about 15 or 20, a group of buffalo bulls that he was part of. And the reason those buffalo bulls, even though once they leave those massive herds like you've been seeing with Scott, they form these little bachelor groups, and it is protection against lions. And sort of the odds are, if there's 15 of you, then you only have a 1 in 15 chance of being eaten. If there's 1 in you, that increases quite a lot. So have a look here, sorry. The other vehicle's gone, so we're just going to keep quiet so we can listen to that incredible sound of the lions feeding. So wasn't that incredible to hear those sounds? And what sounded actually like a bone crunching, that sort of was actually that female using her premolars, the molars in front, to cut through that thick buffalo hide to get to the meat. And also in the background we had some wonderful birds. We had rattling cisticola, white-browed scrub robin, crested francolin. So quite a lot of noise as the morning warms up and the birds get going. But how unbelievable it was to hear that sort of power in those jaws as they cut through that incredibly thick buffalo skin. And young Junior is still lying behind us, not doing much. Or has he spotted the hyena? Can you see anything there, Brian? So Junior's obviously glutted himself quite extensively a bit earlier, and he's far too full to even think about feeding again. They might get a little growl if she gets too close to where the other is feeding. So we listened to that incredible audio, and Linda and Lisa would like me to describe what is the smell like. Well, it's actually not that bad. They would like to know whether it smells terrible or like smoked steak. Well, it definitely doesn't smell like smoked steak. It smells like a butchery almost, with the added... Sorry, 1 second. Junior's just got up and is walking behind Brian. Just making sure he's not getting too close to Brian. But it's, as I said, it smells more like a butchery, with the added sort of thing of sort of undigested grass and stomach content. But it doesn't smell that bad, so can you imagine what your local butcher smells like? If you had to go into the back, that's what it smelled like. And then, while we're here, we can have a quick look at a lion's skull and the teeth that they're using. And you see how it doesn't have distinct flattened molars like a herbivore would, or an omnivore like us do. So these are these teeth here that they're using to cut through the thick hide of the buffalo, and then you see them turn their head to the side to use those teeth there. So the premolars and molars. And then the incisors, which are on the front, are what they use quite often to grip and pull that meat off there. So there we go, that's just a good idea. So you can actually see the shape of those teeth in the lion's mouth that they're using to do that cutting with. Oh, and here comes Junior. He might come in for the feed to see what... He's got a stick that's got caught in his mane that he's trying to remove. Seems to be getting quite frustrated with that little stick. We'll see if Junior's going to go in to feed. Looks like he's going to go greet. Oh, boom. Okay. A little bit of movement happening here. just flopping down in a different spot because Junior has disturbed. And you can see how they completely ignore the vehicles. She is so close we can't even see her. You can actually start seeing the sort of inner workings of a buffalo now. And if we go in quite tight there, you can actually see the hip bone there to the left-hand lioness, and you can actually see the ball joint there at the beginning of the leg, and it's actually being pulled out at the moment. So there you can actually see that ball joint and the cartilage and how it moves and how it sits in there and it rotates as an animal would have moved. And then the lioness is eating the kneecap at the moment. So you can start seeing the sort of inner workings. Uh-oh, here comes trouble. Let's see if he's in a friendly mood or not. As I said, with a big carcass like this, there isn't going to be as much aggression as with a small carcass, but there could still be some. But look at that belly. And if he ate much more, it would drag on the floor. He's thinking about eating, even though he possibly might not be able to fit anything else in his belly. And also one of the fascinating things we're going to be able to witness while we're here, not only with the pride, but with this buffalo carcass itself, is how quickly and how much of it's going to be left. And Kay and Kathy have questions about the hide and the bones. So what will happen to the hide and what will happen to the bones, or who eat the bones? And very, very interesting that the hide will probably hang around for a while. They might eat some of it, but if they are very hungry or they decide that they need to, but quite a lot of the hide will just basically dry out and become a really sort of hardened thing, unless the hyenas get to it, which is also another possibility. And the hyenas might eat some of the hide and the bones, but some of the bigger bones in a buffalo would be even too strong for a hyena to break open. So they will definitely eat quite a lot of it, but the bones, the smaller bones, the lions would eat some of them, the hyenas would eat the rest, and then the rest of them would just slowly sort of disappear under the sort of harsh African elements, the sun, the weather, and those bones that are left out there provide an important source of calcium for the other animals there. So, I mean, we've seen Inyala, bushbuck, giraffe, all eating old buffalo bones at different times. And also then the small rodents would also make use of it, squirrels, gerbils, mice, and even porcupines. So, talking about what they'll eat, if we can get a little bit closer in on what's left of the head there, Ashley would like to know, would they eat the tongue? I'm pretty sure the tongue's already been eaten. Ashley, that would have been eaten last night already. You can see they've also eaten the meat around the cheeks. So they've already eaten the tongue and the cheeks. Oh, tongue and cheek. Okay, I'll stop with the bad jokes. There we go, head disappearing inside buffalo. Oh, it looks like someone's arriving early on safari. Sorry about the aeroplane buzzing overhead. We unfortunately have no control. Just wait till the plane disappears before I get back to Kevin's question. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Kevin. He was on his final approach to the airstrip to the south of us. So Kevin would like to know what's the closest waterhole to where we are at the moment, and would they go drink, and if they did, would this give the scavengers a chance to get in on the kill? I think probably the closest waterhole, let me try to think, as the crow flies from here, would be Twin Dams. But it's likely, I don't think they're going to head to water from this carcass. It's always a possibility. With probably Twin Dams or Buffalo's Hook Dam. Going to come also lie very close to us. No, first ablution break. But if they did go to take a break and go to have a drink, I'm pretty sure those hyenas would be in here in record speed. But lions, even though they like to drink, they don't actually need to drink. They are able to get enough moisture from whatever they kill to supply them with water. So it's something they like to do rather than need to do. Hello, lady. Lady, is this an appropriate place to lie? And look at me. Good morning to you too. You can see how she's almost going out like this with that belly so incredibly fat. So to give you an idea how close she is to us now, I would say she is less than a meter and a bit. As you can see, here's my shoulder and the door. And when animals choose to come this close to you by themselves, it's fine. We wouldn't try drive this close to her. She would probably move and run away, even if we started moving the car now. Or not run away, but move off. Here you can see dirty paws. She's seen Bryan playing with his camera there, or a stick above Bryan, and she just saw the movement and she picked up on it quite quickly. So as we can see a nice close-up on her face, and you can see one of the older lionesses. You can see the whiskers are quite short and broken, so this would be one of the older ladies. That is one of the ways to tell, even though they all look quite young and in good condition, she is a little bit older. And I know we get asked often about nose age, and you can see he has an oldish lion, probably around 10 years old, with a very much a pink nose. So if we go from her whiskers to Junior's whiskers, who's obviously quite young and not even in his prime yet. You can see he's got lovely long whiskers, not nearly as broken and and as short as this female who's lying very close to us. Let's have a look here quickly if we can, Brian. Well, before, don't worry, she's folded her foot down. So we quite often see lions utilizing trees to stretch and get their nails in. There we go, there's a nice piece of rump. You can see that nice red meat there. So Dylan from West Des Moines is wondering, are there certain tree species that they like to sharpen their claws on? Dylan, we're going to get back to your question in a second in case we get a bit of aggression here. And a third lion, or second lioness moving in. Oh. Well, they seem to be feeding quite amicably at the moment, but that can change in a second with lions. So in the meantime, we're going to go back to Dylan's question. Do they have certain tree species they prefer to sharpen their claws on? They're not really sharpening their claws so much as cleaning them. You get quite a lot of, you can imagine, putrefying meat and gunk stuck under their claws. And so when they are stretching on those trees, it is more to clean them than to sharpen them. And I haven't noticed a particular preference for any tree species. It just seems to be the one that is the right shape and closest by. So guys, we've been sitting with these lions for quite a long time. And obviously I always love spending time with lions, but you guys are also on drive with me. So why don't you guys let me know, should we stay or should we go? And you can do that by sending an email to us at questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Should we stay or should we go? Yes? Good. Hello, madam. Very, very close to us. It is absolutely incredible to have these apex predators, and you saw how much strength and power they have last night on the Sunset Safari. Literally less than a meter from my legs. And they look quite dopey at the moment. Full belly, having difficulty breathing, so much buffalo. Oh, isn't it? The lioness that spotted that hyena is coming down from the termite mound. No, stopping for an ablution break behind the marula tree. Nope, not going to make it all the way. Poof. When this lioness is nice and relaxed there now, they're quite spread out. So we've got 3 feeding on the carcass. We've got that one there. We've got the one right next to us. buddy Mike from Florida, who's just tuned in. Mike would like a quick recap on what's going on. Well, very warm welcome, Mike. We're with the Nkahuma Pride, who managed to bring down a buffalo mere meters away from us last night. It was an incredible experience, and it was wonderful to have so many of you on the back of the vehicle with us. We've spent so much time with Nkahumas and watched them fail at so many hunts. It was just sort of about time, and law of averages said we were going to be there. But it was an absolutely incredible experience. And now we've been spending the morning with the rest of the pride as they are very fat and start feeding. And we'll continue to feed for a day or two over this carcass. We had a single hyena who's sniffing around. Maybe they'll come calling with a few friends later on this evening on the Sunset Safari. But for those of you who might be a new viewer, you can also ask us questions about what we're seeing here. And you can do that by emailing us, and the email address is questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So the general consensus is that we stay with these lions, so stay we shall. Marianne mentioned that the lioness who was lying right next to us would be sad if we left. Marianne, unfortunately, I think she wouldn't give two hoots whether we stayed or we left, and she's actually moved off away, deciding we were far too noisy and interfering with her nap time, and she's moved off to the front of the vehicle. We can hear a hyena in the distance. The front of the vehicle, probably looking for a nice spot to bed down for a nap. There we go. Well, now that she's moved, we're going to do the same. We're just going to try reposition so we can have a different view of what's going on at this buffalo carcass. So we haven't been able to move from this exact spot for such a long time because Junior walked up and slept behind us, and then we had the other lioness who came and lay next to us. So while we reposition, we're going to cross back to Scotty to check in with what he's been up to, and we'll be back with the lions just in a different spot.
Welcome into the Murakeni drainage system. We are slowly making our way towards Red Dam, and we've been moving through this area in the hope of finding any sign of Shadow, a female leopard, and her young male cub. They have had tracks of her in this area both yesterday and today, but no luck with finding her. So we thought we'd come and join in the search, and have yet to have any luck. But it really is a beautiful area to drive through here on Arethusa. We decided to leave the large herd of buffalo. There's a strong chance that they will pop out at the Arethusa waterhole where we've got a live cam, the 24-hour feed. So I'm guessing in about the next hour or two they should arrive there for a drink, which will be wonderful to see in a big open area. But I don't think they're going to make it there during the broadcast. Probably at least an hour, 2, maybe even 3 hours until they get there. And interestingly enough, something we didn't touch on is that you may wonder who makes the decisions for the herd when there's so many of them involved. And interestingly, it's the females. A group of older, wiser females that have been termed pathfinders who jointly make the decisions in terms of which area to go and feed in, drink in, and where to move in general. So there's no set leader, but a group of the ladies who make the decisions as to where they go. And judging by the direction they're heading in, I'm guessing that the ladies have jointly decided to head off to the Arethusa waterhole for their next drink. Now, it is a frequently asked question, but one that we do need to keep addressing. And this time it's been asked from Dylan in West Des Moines. And good to have you with us, Dylan. Dylan's interested to know my opinions on habituation of animals like we have in this scenario here in the Sabi Sands. The animals have become relaxed with us as humans, mainly in the vehicles and not necessarily when we're walking around. And it's important to note that, Dylan. It's a very different scenario if we walk around this area compared to when we drive around. And the animals will typically act very differently to us when we are on foot. So there still is a high element of fear. And most of the times that we encounter animals on foot, they will actually run away. And that goes for all of them: lion, leopard, hyena, buffalo, elephants. 98% of the time that we encounter them, they will flee from us. So that's good. They still have a natural fear of us, which is very useful, so that none of us get caught up in their daily ongoings. But Dylan would like to know if we think it's good that the animals are habituated or bad. Should we just leave them be? In an ideal world, Dylan, there would be no humans on the planet and all of the animals would roam free without us disturbing them. But the fact of the matter is, we are here and we've already caused so much damage to their environments and their homes that what we can do now is just try our best to ensure that these safe havens still exist, and also try as best as we can to expand their natural havens and habitats. And it is possible, but like everything on this planet, money is required. Now, to keep the Sabi Sands wild area safe for the animals that roam around that we see on a daily basis, there need to be guests coming here, there needs to be revenue coming in. There aren't enough charities in the world to simply put up fences and keep habitats safe for animals. And the way that money can be created and a sustainable revenue created is through game viewing and ecotourism. And the impact that we have on the animals that we habituate is very, very small. There certainly will be an impact. We would be lying if we were saying it's as if we're not even here. Of course they know we're here, and from time to time, yes, we may slightly negatively impact on their daily ongoings, but our intentions are good, and by people being allowed to see these animals, it creates revenue to protect them. If nobody came on safari to Africa, there would be far, far less animals left, and most of them would have been killed, or their habitats would have been used for something else to gain revenue. And that's the world over. Land needs to somehow create money, and in this case, it's through game viewing. And if the animals were not relaxed in the Sabi Sands, then nobody would come here, and there would be no money to protect the area that they live in and the animals themselves. It's not only habitats that are under threat, but also the fact that a lot of animals are poached for various reasons, be it meat, ivory, rhino horn, and money that is gathered and revenue that is created from ecotourism can therefore be pumped back again to not only protect their habitat, but for anti-poaching purposes, have anti-poaching teams that can protect the animals and even create awareness. If nobody saw the animals that we see on a daily basis, how would you fall in love with them, and how would you be more inclined to conserve them if you didn't know about them and you didn't have the opportunity to fall in love with them? So I think it's critical that animals are habituated. Yes, there certainly will be some parts of Africa that are very remote, and those animals will still have a touch of the wild side and not even tolerate a vehicle driving up to them, and that's great. But those are few and far between, and the reality is habituation is required in order for animals to be looked after. So I hope that answers your question, Dylan. It is something I feel strongly about. And as long as it's done correctly and ethically, there should be no problem with habituating animals. That little pond we just drove past was called Red Dam here on Arethusa. And Tingana, a male leopard, was seen very close to here yesterday. His tracks evidently headed straight east into Djuma, but we had no luck in tracking him down. He could still be there. But it is also waterhole that Shadow and Sindile frequent. For those of you who just joined, sadly you may have missed out on a wonderful sighting of a massive herd of buffalo, probably 200 to 300 of all different shapes and sizes. And Edward noticed that a lot of them had very frayed and tatty ears, and he's wondering what would be the cause of this. Would it be branches snagging onto their ears, or would it be from fights? I think it's a combination of things. You could imagine a buffalo getting a fright from a lion in the dark, tearing off through this quite rough and rugged vegetation. There's a strong chance that it could tear its ears as it passes through, running away wildly from the lion. But also certainly, especially with the males, fighting will be a large cause of their tattered ears. Their ears are right in the firing line of those horns of the other buffalo as they connect. So it'll be certainly a combination of the two. Running away from lion, getting snagged on a lot of hardwoods, and certainly from fighting with the males. And speaking of previous sightings of this morning, it's been a wonderful morning. We got lucky at the hyena den site a little bit earlier on at the start of drive and saw a lot of interesting interaction between different clan members. And Kevin's interested to know what's causing that. Is possibly one of the hyena trying to overthrow another? Yes, that is possible. But what is also possibly happening is that it may not be an overthrow that we're witnessing, but it may well just be the continuation of keeping hierarchy in place, certain dominant figures maintaining dominance, and also possibly protecting of future dominance, in that there may be a young cub who's been born into the hierarchy of a future queen, but an older sister also in that same lineage may be jealous of this new threat, even though it's a lot younger than her, and therefore the mothers may get involved and try and chase off the next queen to be, just to make sure she doesn't kill the following queen in line. So there's so much that's unknown about hyena, and there's still a lot of research being done on the topic. So like I say, we can only guess as to what is going on there, but certainly, Kevin, there has been some very interesting behavior, and we've only started noticing it since this new cub arrived, and maybe it's been happening beforehand when we have not been there. And even though we're out here daily, we're only out for a quarter of the day, and of that quarter of the day, how much time do we allocate to any one animal? So it is difficult for us just to assume that because we haven't seen it, things haven't been happening. Okay, now, some of you may have noticed that lions spend a lot of time sleeping, as do leopard, and Declan would like to know, are hyena in a similar boat? Do they also have a kind of 16 to 20 hour a day sleep pattern? I would say yes, in general they do sleep many hours of the day, and like other carnivores, they will try and maximize their times of movement to try and be efficient in finding food. But hyena will move huge distances, and I'm inclined to say that they will not be quite as lazy as the leopard or the lion. They're designed to cover huge distances, and they certainly will move massive distances when they are awake, but they do spend a lot of time sleeping. There's no doubt about that. The station's back on Vuyatela. No major updates from Safari. Just a Makulu Flampenyari heading towards the Arethusa Dam. Morning, Brent. Just touching in with my sidekick. Copy, thank you very much. And Brent has kindly given me an update as to what's going on here on Juma, as we operate on a different radio channel here, and that way there's not too much radio chatter. The guides in this specific area will chat on this radio, and the guides in Arethusa and to the west of there will chat on another one. It's still going to be close enough. Look at how beautiful this bird is. Wonderful. Looking for breakfast, glistening in the morning sunlight. This is a green woodhoopoo, and when the sun catches it on the correct angle, they do glisten a wonderful green. It's also formerly known as the red-billed woodhoopoo. Great. I've been wanting to show you one of those birds up close for quite some time now, and finally we got lucky. Yesterday the birds were giving me a proper run around and weren't interested in any of our plans, but that happens from time to time. And for those of you who haven't started your bird list yet, I think a number one green woodhoopoo on the top of your list would be a good way to start, and it really is a good way to open up your eyes to the birding world, and it really can be fun. And it's a great way, once you do have a list, just to kind of naturally compete with yourself and try and keep adding new names to the list, and that way that'll keep us pressured to keep trying to find you new birds. So it's a two-way story, the live safari experience, and it's important that we are both interacting together with one another. It's certainly not a one-sided affair, and if we get your bird lists and get your comments and requests, it certainly will help pressure us to up the tempo for you. Now, speaking of live safari, for those of you who are not aware, you can communicate with us and let us know your thoughts and questions. It's very easy. You hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv, and it is getting hot now that the sun has been out for a few minutes. Woo. Well, I'm humbled by your kind words regarding answering of Dylan's question earlier about habituation of animals. I'm glad you liked it, some of you at least, and thanks for sending through that positive feedback. It really does make a big difference to us out here. And Speaking of habituation and animals that are not going to run away from the vehicle, let's go and see what the Nkahuma Pride are up to at the moment.
Welcome back, everyone, and there you can actually see the head of the buffalo. And I said the cheek and bones had been eaten, and we also got asked whether the tongue had been eaten, and you can see there's no tongue. They would have come in from underneath and removed that last night sometime. And you can also see the eyes have also been eaten. So did a good job around the head. They haven't quite got to the neck in that yet, but there you can see sort of the deconstruction of a buffalo skeleton happening live here in the African bush. And the surgeons who are doing it are the Nkahuma Pride. And there we go. There's young Junior who's chewing on the hip, and one of the lionesses lying next to him. And so also, you must remember, we are live. We're watching this in real time. You're watching a pride of lions in the middle of the African bush feed on an African buffalo or a Cape buffalo. We also are able to take questions about what you're seeing, and you can do that by emailing us at questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. You can actually see him there. He's chewing on the joint. He might be trying to get a bit of marrow out of there, and he's using those molars and premolars as a cutting and crushing tool in that situation there. So maybe I wasn't, I didn't explain what was happening earlier well enough. So apparently a lot of you guys wanted to stay because you were waiting to see a lion-hyena clash. That's probably, I'm almost 100% certain, not going to happen during the day or this morning. If it does happen, it'll be on the sunset safari. The hyenas are sort of staying at about 100 meters away. There's only one that we've seen so far, and did a bit of a call and a cackle, trying to incite a bit of excitement from the other hyenas. And I think more than likely it's either going to happen tonight or tomorrow. Tomorrow is probably a better bet. Once the lions have eaten a bit more, the hyenas might think that they won't defend the carcass as well. So I'm quite sure there will be hyenas keeping tabs on the lions here throughout the day and possibly throughout the night as well. But I don't think they're going to rush in to attack yet. There's only one hyena that we've seen in the vicinity, possibly two. And I would say for a pride of this big, you would probably need at least 10 or 15 hyenas to push to push them off. But it is quite nice watching them feed and seeing how they utilize those incredible teeth of theirs. So, as you notice, there doesn't seem to be too much blood on the faces of these lions. And Dave's commented he's amazed at how clean they look. And why isn't there any blood all over their face? So, Dave, that would have happened last night when they first opened up the stomach. Most of the blood would have already been drunk and drunk by now. And probably for an hour afterwards, they would have had very bloody faces. But at the moment, and so they would have had that initial feed and glut, basically, of putting as much meat in there beddys as possible, as quickly as possible. And then afterwards, there probably would have been quite a bit of grooming and sort of laying about and social grooming to reaffirm those the pride structures and bonds between the different individuals. And that's where they would have cleaned off a lot of that blood from their faces. So we're going to cross across quickly to Scotty, who's got one of our feathered friends who would probably be the first to have spotted this buffalo carcass on their movements once they get moving this morning.
Welcome back, and fear not, we are going to show you this bird. It just flew over us. You missed it by a second. It was a battler eagle, and Andrew was just saying he wanted to film a raptor. And it popped out and flew straight over us, but has continued away, sadly. Now watch closely. You'll see it teetering from side to side. There we go. Now those little teeters will be uncommon on other birds of prey who are fortunate to have longer tails than the battalier. But because of their very short tail, they will often have that characteristic teeter from side to side. So even though you didn't get a good view of the bird, you've got a good idea of how to now identify it if we see one flying past. And it also is a reason why it got its name, the battalier. It originates from a French word called bastel, which means entertainer or acrobat. And you could just imagine a tightrope walker on a trapeze trying to balance, teetering from side to side. Anyway, I'm glad you got a glimpse of it, but we're going to send you back to Brent, and we might see you with some more feathered friends a little bit later.
Welcome back. Unfortunately, it seems the battaliers are playing a lot of tricks with Scott, but fortunately you guys did manage to get a glimpse of it. And they have an incredible eyesight. They fly quite a lot lower than the vultures and that's why they have that shortened tail, and you get that incredible sort of tightrope balancing effect. And I'm quite sure that they will spot this. They might not come down on this carcass just because the lions are still present. But I'm quite sure Battalier has already spotted this and his morning patrol. So there's impala alarming. We're just going to keep quiet for a second. The lions heard it and took little notice. I think it's a little bit far away unless one of the lions has decided to move off in that direction. So we're going to have a quick look. We will come straight back to the lions here. But who knows, there might be a leopard or something else just a little bit behind where these lions are at the moment. So you never know what happens out here in the bush, as you can see while we've been sitting with the lions, probably about 100 meters away. I can hear impala alarming, so I'm just going to shoot there quickly and have a quick look. Ooh, stump, we don't want to hit that. And then we'll come straight back to those lions on the carcass. That's what it is. The lions have come to lie on the cool of the road, and I didn't see where these ones were lying, and we've got the impala directly behind them. And that's what the alarm calling's at. Is that good for you here, right? Say when? There we go. And if we have a look up the road, we've got these lions lying in the cool sand of the road. And if we go up, there we go. We've got the impala snorting straight at them. Isn't that quite a wonderful sight? And you can see there what we talk about quite often when impala and other sort of prey species spot a predator like a lion or a leopard, and they realize that they're not actually a threat at the moment, they will stand and look at them and sometimes even walk closer to them while they snort. There we go, you heard the impala. That is quite an awesome shot. I hope you guys are getting some good screenshots of that. Nice to see lion and impala together. And for once, I think the impala not too perturbed about these lions. As there you can see, as I said, they sometimes will walk closer to inspect to make sure that they're not a threat. So the lions have moved away from the carcasses now. Obviously, in the early morning, these roads will still be the sand will be quite cold, and they're taking advantage of that cool sand to lie on, the same way they would utilize a riverbed. And you can actually see this female close to us here. I mean, that belly is grotesquely large. I mean, it must be incredibly uncomfortable having a belly that full. Sorry guys, I'm just having a quick look for my shkogo. And those who are wondering what a shkogo is, it is the Zulu word for a hat. Now there's something that I don't even know how to spell. At least I can say it. So you can see the impala quite relaxed. They've even started feeding again, even though they can see a lion. So we're going to cross across to Scotty quickly so he can bid you adieu, and we will be back with you for the last few minutes, and we'll spend them with the Nkahuma Pride.
Well, it sounds like you've just had a wonderful, wonderful shot of the lion and the impala. And I must say, from time to time, we do get jealous of one another on the different vehicles. And aren't you guys lucky to be able to always be in the action? It's sadly coming to a close, this sunrise safari, but it certainly has been another very interesting episode of Mother Nature's ongoings out here, and it's been wonderful to share it with you. I must say a big thank you to Andrew on camera, as well as to Tara in the final control room, and Nikki, who's been lending her a hand. Something to hopefully look forward to this afternoon is the incorporation of Stefan being on foot, and we are still fine-tuning that walking backpack, but it will hopefully be up and running, and we'll be sending you a live feed from on foot here on Juma and Arethusa. So that's something to look forward to on the sunrise. But until then, a big thank you for following, and back to Brent. We'll see you all a little bit later.
Welcome back. So there's Impala moved off, so we'll make our way for the last few minutes back to the carcass. So, a curious one would like to know whether they've turned the carcass over yet. And here is the amber-eyed lioness, and she started feeding. They haven't yet. It looks to be in the same position as it was when they brought it down last on the Sunset Safari. It'll take them a while before they are able to eat enough meat. I'm sure Junior is possibly strong enough to turn the carcass, but the lionesses might want to wait for a little bit more meat to be devoured before they do that. So, for the last little bit before we disappear, we're just going to give you a quick little recap. It's been an incredible week. We've spent probably close on, I'm guessing, over 10 hours with the Nkahuma Pride, waiting for them to make a kill. We've watched them chase buffalo, we've watched them stalk Inyala, and they just haven't managed to get that success. And then last night, we spent probably a good 2 hours with absolutely flat cats. And then for that last hour was this most incredible action. And being able to see the kill from start to finish is such an amazing experience and not something we get to do very often. And so it's been a long week of lions, but a very successful week for the lions. They were quite hungry when they started, and it's nice to see them with nice big fat bellies. So from Brian and myself, thanks very much for joining us, and we've had an absolutely splendid time around the carcass today. And it's not often that you can say, and not many people can say, they enjoy hanging around dead buffaloes, but we do. And we're gonna leave you now, and we're gonna leave you with the lions. So make sure to join us for the Sunset Safari. Who knows, the hyenas might be on their way. So have a wonderful day or morning wherever you might be in the world.